leboga sebakeng sena ke tlo bitsa Ministerial wa Environmental Affairs mohlomphegi Molewa go bula dipuisano.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson, colleagues in the National Assembly, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. I have an honor indeed to table this budget vote of the Department of Environmental Affairs with its programs and priorities for the year 2015-2016. This budget reflects our mandate to protect the right of all South Africans to an environment that's not harmful to the health and well-being of all our people, and reflects the overwhelming mandate that has been given to us by the ruling party as South African government in order to address the triple challenges of poverty, job creation, and inequality. Our approach has four outcomes which are very key, and firstly, is the outcome to optimize the economic and job creation contributions to this environmental sector. Secondly, to transform and transition to a sustainable and equitable society. Thirdly, to enhance and safeguard environmental health and integrity. And fourthly, to influence the global developmental agenda. Next month, Honorable Chair and honorable members, we mark the World Environment Day next month under the theme, 7 Billion Dreams, One Planet. It is a timely theme, for we know that the negative impacts of climate change are becoming increasingly felt by particularly the vulnerable people and communities in South Africa and all over around the world. As concerns for the environment grow, there is a shift globally towards green climate resilience and low carbon development policies and pathways. Bolstered by this environmental budget, we have within our grasp the opportunity to transition to a green, sustainable development pathway that prioritizes climate change responses. Coming to deal with issues of the green economy, would like to say, honorable members, that ensuring that South Africa's environmental assets are conserved, protected, and sustainably used, we will continue to prioritize, facilitate sustainable livelihoods for our people. The environmental sector continues to be very central to job creation and skills training. Through our green economy strategy, we continue to work towards promoting equality and equitable, environmental, sustainable, inclusive growth, and I dare say socio-economic growth indeed, because it's also growth for our people. Our green economy strategy carries 8 pillars, and I'm not going to get into those pillars because I assume that all honorable members do know about them, and indeed South Africans, but they are really around the environmental sectors and the resources that we have, like water and so forth. As outlined in our integrated resource plan, by 2030, we aim to have sliced our energy demand significantly through technological innovation, good behavioral practice, and public commitment to more efficient, sustainable, and equitable energy use. We plan to have an efficient, low-carbon public transport system that makes everyday use of a private vehicle unnecessary extravagance. By the year 2030, our houses, offices, and commercial buildings will no longer be energy drains, but rather energy sources supplying electricity to communities through smart meters and smart grids. These are some of, actually, there's few goals that are laid in the NDP that we have to achieve by 2030. Let me turn to the programs that focus on optimizing the economic and job creation contributions within the environmental sector. A key intervention, ladies and gentlemen, to facilitate the transition to a green economy has been the establishment of a National Green Fund, which we did in 2012. This fund provides startup funding for innovative and high-impact green economy projects that the private sector and banks would not necessarily fund, and support the transition to a greener economy, all the way working on poverty reduction and job creation. To date, ladies and gentlemen, we have 53 projects that have been approved by the fund, by the board, and that includes investment, research, and capacity building projects. These projects are yielding positive results in terms of job creation, with approximately 8,124 job opportunities created and at least 6,300 individuals trained since 2013. The Green Fund interventions have realized some 30,000 hectares converted to conservation land use, land ownership, actually benefiting the people in the wildlife economy who are landowners. Waste management projects collected and recycled over 8 million kilograms of waste in 2014. This fund continues to make strides with the recent approval of mega projects within the thematic area of energy and piloting technology for recycling of plastic, contributing significantly towards management of plastic waste streams. In 2012, this fund allocated an initial amount of 800 million rand and now has received additional 590 million rand over the next MTF. Ladies and gentlemen, our climate change response policy is being accelerated, but also guided by the National Development Plan. The development of a first phase of the desired emission reduction objectives, what we call the DEROs, and the carbon budgets are underway. And the carbon budget system will be introduced in 5-year phases, an initial phase being from 2016 to 2020 and subsequently from 2021, other phases. Our priority focus area are communities most vulnerable to impacts of climate change, namely the indigent in particular, the rural dwellers and women. Given that and its demonstrated capacity, the South African National Biodiversity Institute has been appointed the national implementing agency, which is called NIE, of the Global Adaptation Fund. What a nice thing, globally. One of our own institutions here in South Africa. Recently launched Adaptation Fund pilots projects include the Greater Umgeni catchment area in KwaZulu-Natal, and I'm sure people in KwaZulu-Natal are very happy about this. The Mopani district in Limpopo, Namakwa in Northern Cape. You can see these are the vulnerable provinces, not so rich. These projects are funded to the value of $10 million and enhancement of early warning system also is being dealt with. Protecting local communities are part of the things that we do there, protecting those communities from extreme weather events and promoting climate-smart agriculture practices. The South African Weather Services continue to host the Global Atmospheric Watch Station at the Cape Point. You know, global means worldwide, here again in this country. This network arose from the need to understand and control the increasing influence of human activity on the global atmosphere and provide climate change information and services. I will not, at this point in time, get into EPWP. The Deputy Minister will cover that very important program of our work, that's job creation, as well as other members maybe. The waste sector, ladies and gentlemen, continues to also be a source of job creation and core benefits. The Waste Act regulates waste management to protect health and the environment through measures to prevent pollution, ecological degradation, and securing environmental sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, waste is an economic concept. With an economic loss, every time resources are discarded as waste, we actually are losing. The sector is currently valued at around 50 billion rand per annum, and a recent CSIR report indicates that at least 25 billion worth of value is locked up in South Africa's waste stream, of which we are sending 17 billion to landfill sites, in accordance to the CSIR report. CSIR are scientists here in South Africa. Reducing, recovering, and minimizing waste provides opportunities for socio-economic development, new jobs and businesses, maximizing resource recovery for downstream manufacturing growth, and reducing reliance on declining natural resources. Ladies and gentlemen, South Africa has been identified as one of the 5 emerging markets with exciting opportunities in the waste sector, including organic waste, recyclable, as well as waste streams for large industrial sectors such as power generating and mining. Just this week, ladies and gentlemen, I opened a Coca-Cola approved bottle-to-bottle recycling plant on the continent. It's here in South Africa functioning for the continent, the first ever on the continent, right here in Wadeville in Gauteng province. Not only is this a locally owned and operated plant, it has created opportunities, approximately 41,000 income opportunities in the PET bottle collection sector, with many of these recipients being women. An estimated additional 15,000 opportunities have also been opened up in the informal sector, including separation at source programs such as the buyback centers. The Coca-Cola company launched in South Africa for taking the lead on the continent in the recycling space, as well as for its role in contributing towards a greener future and the sustainable economy. Also last year, ladies and gentlemen, we launched the E-Waste Africa CFL recycling plant in Umsunduzi, KZN. Also the first plant in Africa using such cutting-edge technology. That multinationals are increasingly choosing South Africa as an investment destination of choice in the recycling sector, ladies and gentlemen, is evidence of the tangible gains that are being made in pursuit of our green economy strategy in South Africa, thanks to the ruling party for your policies. Another success story has been the waste tire recycling sector. In November 2012, I approved the implementation of the Redisa plan, an industry waste tire plan. Its objective is to promote a sound management of waste tires while also contributing to economic growth. As of December 2014, the following milestones have been achieved. 51,143 tons, which is 31% of the waste tires have been diverted away from landfill site, either being recycled, reused for energy or recovery. Now, imagine that those tons, should they have been at the landfill site, where would we be? 1,981 jobs have been created. 181 SMMEs have been created in transport, in depot operations, processing, and micro collectors. Now, the list goes on and the work goes on. Knowing as we do that a critical success factor is the establishment of economic value of these waste resources, a pricing strategy for waste management charges is now in place, and Waste Management Bureau to oversee the disbursement of this revenue that's collected. We are currently working with the National Treasury to implement this strategy. Initially, a tire levy will be introduced with Treasury and we will actually be implementing with effects from the last quarter of this year. I take this opportunity, therefore, to announce, ladies and gentlemen, to this August House, that given these lessons that we have, we're now moving on to process 3 additional industry waste plans in the electronic, paper, and packaging and lighting sector. That's electronic. Again, we'll be counting this number of jobs that will be created next year. We confirm our commitment made in the National Waste Summit to develop regulations on separation at source, banning of plastic waste to landfills, and the moratorium on landfill site. We have actually made several commitments, which many of you may know about. I will not dwell in all of them. I now focus on chemicals. The chemical sector remains an important contributor to our economy. However, an unmanaged release of hazardous chemicals into the environment poses significant threats. Our department has prioritized the development of a sound chemical management policy, regulation, compliance, and implementation programs for this year. A further priority will be facilitating the implementation of a secondary asbestos remediation plan. You know asbestos is very dangerous for our people. The plan is there, we want to facilitate and begin to implement it. Construction of an asbestos-free Mafefe traditional office is underway in Limpopo because we've got to replace that office where the threats are hanging of asbestos. The asbestos Kiba school in the Northern Cape has been shut, with a new school scheduled for construction later this year. Coming to air quality, ladies and gentlemen, we say we do recognizing as we do that pollution has severe negative impacts on the health of people and communities, and in particular the poor. The ANC government continues to advance pro-poor and pro-development laws and regulations. Industry compliance has been assessed, and it is expected that full compliance with the view of air quality standards will be attained without hindering growth and really focusing on sustainable economic development. The 102 government-owned monitoring stations countrywide always continuously send to the South African Air Quality Information System Management, that system that's managed by our own institutions, the South African Weather Services, that's functioning so ably. Coming to biodiversity, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say that without our richly endowed ecosystem services, natural resources and biodiversity-based that are there, like, for instance, water, jobs that are provided through this, and food, shelter, fuel, and medicine, would not actually be existing, and that would be damaged without these natural resources of ours. Further, the impacts of climate change would easily be multiple times its current effect. In this context, a priority for this year is growing sustainable, inclusive, and transformed biodiversity economy. We'll be hosting the second biodiversity economy in Durban to really look at the growth of this sector. It'll happen in a few months from now. One of the core wildlife economy resources is our strategy to expand the network of national parks, heritage sites, and so forth. Just before I leave that part of the biodiversity strategy, I must say that we're focusing on the bioprospecting issues, providing where we can provide medicinal plants and so forth, and wildlife management, because we see this as a new industry potentially, where we have been given a mandate to look at a possibility of creating new industrialists from a section like this. So that mandate we take very seriously, and that's one area we're going to focus on. Ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing to look at the parks, infrastructure in our sun parks and in our parks, to put new infrastructure and refurbish the old, but also look at the one damaged by the floods recently. And to that effect, we have set aside money. An amount of 950 million rand has been allocated for sun parks for infrastructural development, while another 42 million rand has been allocated for roads improvement. Any additional 12 million rand has been allocated to repair of sun parks flooded infrastructure. These initiatives, ladies and gentlemen, don't just create sustainable employment for many communities adjacent to the parks, but also they serve for those rural areas as the beacons of hope for jobs and for growth, sustainable development in those areas. Ladies and gentlemen, it is ironic that our very success in conserving Africa's biodiversity has turned us into a target for unscrupulous operators who are involved in organized transnational environmental wild crimes. Whether it is illegal logging, offshoring of fishing species, and smuggling of any other, through dumping of toxic waste and hazardous waste or wildlife poaching, environmental crime is often tied to another form of criminal activity. South Africa is one of the global hotspots for threatened cycads, for instance, and 31% of South Africa's cycads are classified as critically endangered, compared to the global average of 17%. Imagine, it's a real double the figure. Based on these recommendations by SANBI that has been made by our scientists, we will soon release a national strategy on action plan for the management of cycads. And environmental and wildlife crimes result in devastating impacts on species, ecosystems, sustainable livelihood, economies, and national and regional security, including the unique fragile ecosystems and biodiversity that attract tourists to our shore. Despite these huge increases in our security investment and international cooperation efforts, rhino poaching continues apace in South Africa. We will continue to intensify the integrated strategy management approach that we have adopted as cabinet, and continue to yield success. It is actually continuing to yield successes now. And our appreciation at this point in time goes to all South Africans who continue to support us in the fight against rhino poaching, including our brave rangers who are at the forefront of fighting poachers in our parks and reserves. Let us all say no, not on our watch will rhinos be poached to extinction. No, not on our watch. Working with our national security agencies, we have strengthened all national ports of entry and exit, such as international airports and others. The Green Scorpions have been deployed at the OR Tambo International Airport to ensure compliance and undertake enforcement actions related to biodiversity laws and regulations, and have already detected non-compliance with the alien and invasive species regulations related to reptiles, and also notices have been issued. They have also stopped some of the consignment now, just when there were a few weeks or just about a week at the OR Tambo International Airport. Well done, our scorpions. Regarding the oceans policy developed last year, we identified economic potential and commercial industrialization on large-scale livelihood opportunities that are presented by the sustainable use and management of our oceans. Led by our President Jacob Zuma and guided by the National Development Plan, which we launched as Operation Pakisa in July last year, as a big fast result mechanism to seize these oceans economic opportunities, we are moving on. Siyaqhuba. The implementation of this ocean economy intervention is well underway, and a budget allocation of 85 million rand just in the governance sector of that oceans economy. You know, it has 4 pillars. This one pillar, there's an allocation already of 85 billion rand that has been prioritized to develop the Marine Spatial Plan, the Oceans Bill, and establishment of 22 offshore marine protected areas. And also we'll be supporting the agriculture, forestry, and fishery. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I come to the international and climate change. 2015 marks an important year for the United Nations calendar. And as the focus shifts towards the adoption of post-2015 development agenda and negotiations of new finance for development round, in which South Africa is a current chair of Group 77 plus China, and will play our significant role in that regard. Poverty reduction was also identified as the greatest global challenge and an indispensable requirement for sustainable development. So the focus on the post-2015 will be on ensuring that poverty is dealt with. In order to support our national sustainable development efforts, as a department, we have mobilized a total of $80 million from the international source over the next 3 years. And 30.6 million rand of this total has already been approved, and the remaining 49.8 million rand has been endorsed, meaning that it's on its way. This internationally supported initiative, ladies and gentlemen, will promote, amongst others, organic waste to energy and low carbon technologies in a small and medium sector industries. South Africa is an active participant in international climate change negotiations. And we are heading for the 21st discussion COP at the Paris in December this year. Last year at the 20th UN conference in Lima, we actually agreed at the negotiation level that we will have to finalize the agreement this year. We are currently engaged in the intensive public consultation as South Africans, and we are developing our intended nationally determined contributions to the Paris Agreement, which will cover mitigation, adaptation, and means of implementation. So industry is ready, and we are talking as South Africans. We will table our INDCs on time. It's long before the 1st of October 2015 deadline. I'm sorry. The UNFCCC Secretariat.
1 minute, just around. 1 minute.
Sorry. The UNFCCC Secretariat, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, has sent to this August House. They've said we must say this to you. Thank you very much for having processed and acceded to the Kyoto Protocol, that's KP. Work is also proceeding in the finalization of operationalization of the Green Climate Fund. We will be part of that. We're also working on the Green Benguela Current, the BCC in Namibia, jointly with Namibia and Angola, to ensure that the west side of our coast is well managed and we actually utilize those resources properly. The critical work in the Antarctica and Southern Ocean provides South Africa with critical information, and therefore, through our scientists, together with science and technology, we are really also exploring that and working very hard on. We are hard at work, ladies and gentlemen, moving South Africa forward, facilitating poverty eradication programs, promoting inclusive growth, job creation, and above all, preserving the environment for the future generation as the mandate of South Africa and the Constitution gives us, as the ruling party gives us. And would like to take this opportunity to thank you, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, members of the Portfolio Committee, all honorable members who are participating in this, for your support at all times, and most importantly, our families, ladies and gentlemen, that really suffers the most when we are hard at work throughout our lifetimes. Thank you very much.
Raleboga. We now call on the Honorable Mthembu, the chairperson of the committee, to take the...
And by our people. After almost 30 years of forced exile, for daring to say that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white, and that no government can justify claim authority, can justly claim authority unless it is based on the will of the people. When we came back, our glorious movement crafted and put before the South African populace a battery of policy positions, mainly as a redress mechanism to the historical injustices that black people suffered in this country over 350 years of colonial and Verwoerd's apartheid rule. Amongst these policy positions, in preparation then for a future democratic South Africa, headlined Ready to Govern, the movement articulated environment policy wherein it stated, I open quotes, the ANC believes that all citizens of South Africa at present and in future have the right to a safe and healthy environment and to a life of well-being. Accordingly, the broad objectives of our environmental policy are aimed at fulfilling this right. In this context, growth and development within South Africa must be based on the criteria of sustainability, I close quote. It is this ANC unmatched and uncontestable foresight and thought leadership that has always defined our actions in response to matters of the environment. Chairperson, the ANC continued in its environmental policy articulation to put guiding principles that will underpin adherence to the broad policy statement above. Those principles, amongst others, committed ANC to sustainable development, equitable access to environmental resources, public participation in all planning decisions which affect the development and management of natural resources, public right of access to information and the courts on issues of environmental concern, an integrated approach to environmental issues that relates to all sectors of society, and lastly, the recognition by the ANC of the integrated nature of the global environment and the need for international agreement in policy making. Chairperson, by all accounts and standards, the ANC policy on environment is not only futuristic, people-centered, and internationalist in its outlook, it is just revolutionary. The ANC's 53rd conference held in Mangaung in 2012 further resolved on environmental protection and the green economy that we must drive the global effort to achieve the stabilization of greenhouse gas concentration in the atmosphere at a level that prevents anthropogenic interference with the climate system. Conference further resolved that we must implement green economy policy programs and adapt and manage unavoidable and damaging climate change impacts through interventions that build and sustain our social, economic, environmental resilience. We are therefore, as the ANC in this parliament, truly impressed and most appreciative of the department's programs and strategic plans for this year, which speaks to the broad policy perspectives and resolutions of the African National Congress. The department did not only craft progressive environmental-friendly policies, programs, and legal instruments in its strategic goal to protect and conserve our biodiversity. It also put in place well-managed, capable, and competent institutions like the South African National Biodiversity Institute that continues to protect our mammals, our plants, our insects, our snakes, our indigenous flowers and trees. Through our botanical gardens, our biodiversity is not only protected, but conserved for future generations. Chairperson, we even know the state of our snakes and where various types of snakes are found in South Africa. We know the state of our biodiversity that Sunbeam reports on regularly. We are also pleased that 2 new botanical gardens have been established in the Eastern Cape and Limpopo. Chairperson, it is therefore no wonder that as South Africa, we are number 3 in the entire world after Brazil and Indonesia in terms of biodiversity. I can tell you, this is not an accident. It is because of ANC policies. We are hard at work. Another important institution in this regard is our sun parks that ensures protection and conservation of our big animals, including the big 5. Our parks are now not only a tourist attraction because of the wild animals, hospitality innovations have also attracted tourists. Whilst we appreciate the work of our parks, in particular, let me join the minister, the wonderful work of our rangers in protecting our rhino, but all of us need to do more. Chairperson, another important institution created by our government through the DIA is Isimangaliso Wetland Park. This institution has done magnificent work in coming with a co-governance model with surrounding communities in the area of Isimangaliso in KZN. By the way, those who might not know where Isimangaliso is, let me just explain it. This is a beautiful World Heritage Site that is well conserved for future generations by Isimangaliso Wetland Parks. Let's give them a round of applause. Chairperson, the South African Weather Service continues this important work of alerting and warning all of us of severe weather patterns. Their weather stations that are everywhere and anywhere in our country are very important for our daily, day-to-day activities, for aviation, and for our various sectors of the economy. Indeed, we can't do without any weather forecasting. Let's then thank the work of our South African Weather Service. On the department's strategic plan to improve and safeguard the integrity of our ecosystems and the creation of green jobs, indeed, through environmental programs, which are fondly referred to as working for programs, the department has been able to save thousands of hectares of land, agricultural produce, millions of livestock, as well as real and possible destruction to property and households in the past years, and continue to do so in this coming year. Chairperson, through these working for programs, a lot of lives have been saved as well. We are also impressed with the program's work on fighting alien invasive species that threaten our agricultural land, our water streams, dams, and rivers. The program will continue to massify its work in this area. In its fight against deforestation and desertation programs, the department through this program has planted millions of trees in the past, and they will continue to plant 3 million trees this year. This is just magnificent, magnificent. What is even more impressive are the numbers of work opportunities that have been created in the process. In the 19.5 years since this program came into being, of course, all of us know that it came into being when it was called Working for Water. Over 876 work opportunities have been created, particularly for the poor and the marginalized, with a budget of over 21 billion. This year, we expect this program to employ an additional 34,000 people. It is this program of Working for Water, Working for Fire, etc., and its excellent performance that led to the mainstreaming of Working for Water model and momentum to form the government's expanded public works program. The environmental programs within DIA remain a flagship of the EPWP. We are very pleased with the work of the Eco-Furnisher program, wherein the Department of Environmental Affairs, working together with the Department of Basic Education, is targeting putting over 500,000 learners behind a solid school desk for the first time in their lives, made by over 1,000 previously unemployed youth using invasive alien wood. Let's also congratulate this program for averting disaster threats to property, livelihoods, and lives in the recent fires along Table Mountain in the Western Cape. Chairperson, let me take this opportunity on behalf of the committee to pay our condolences to the families of Working for Fire pilots, Hendrik B.S. Mare and Dale Ria, as well as Working for Fire helicopter safety leader, Justin Visachim, who all died in the line of duty, serving our people in March and April this year, respectively. Chairperson, let me also add our prayers as a nation to the suffering, loss of life, and destruction of property in Nepal as a result of natural causes. Chair, the negative effects of climate change, as the minister has said, are with us. We have just read in various newspapers that ice in the Antarctica is melting. If we don't act, if we don't, as the world community come with this with meaningful mitigations and adaptations to these negative effects, we definitely will have no earth to bequeath to future generations. World-leading scientists have warned that if global warming is not limited to below 2 degrees Celsius and continues to fall or to over 6 degrees Celsius, the consequences will not be reversible. Scientists warn us that there will be unprecedented rise of the sea level with destruction of coastal towns and total eradication of islands. We are warned, Chairperson, that if we do nothing up to 2050 to reverse these negative climate change consequences, there will be irreversible, destructive, and deadly heat waves, droughts, and floods. Scientists have warned us that, in fact, the disaster that will ensue on Earth will be equivalent to 10 planes falling from the sky every day if we don't do anything. This is scary. Chairperson, we are very encouraged by our government's climate change response policy, of course, and our national green energy or green economy strategy, coupled with our government's commitment and action plans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 34% and 42% respectively by 2020 and 2025. The 50-year scenario planning by our government, championed by DEA, which indicates a rise in greenhouse gas in the short term, a plateauing in the medium term, and a decrease in greenhouse gas emissions in the long term, is work that the department is seized with. The various instruments in the various sectors of the economy that have been put in place by our government to respond to this threat is worthy to be praised. They include green buildings adaptation measures in key sectors of the economy, move towards a low-carbon resilient economy, diversification of our energy mix, and more emphasis on renewable energy sources. The discussion and engagement between our government, as the minister has alluded to, with various industry are most welcome on this matter. Of course, there is no way that government working alone can reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Therefore, the involvement of industry is most welcome. Chair, it is also our view that the portfolio committees in Parliament whose work have a bearing on climate change should also come together and work together on this human threat. Working in silos will not assist in crafting and oversighting the response of the Republic of South Africa working with other nations to this threat. There is also an important need for our Parliament to interact with our communities, particularly our schools and universities, on how best and what are our plans to mitigate the negative impacts of climate change. As we prepare to attend...
Chairperson, unfortunately, your time has expired.
I fully support this budget vote. Thank you very much.
Siyobiza manje ilunga elihloniphekileko lalendlu umhlonishwa Radebe ukuqhubekisa inkulumo mpikiswano.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members and South Africans, greetings. Through you, Chair, Minister, the department has made has made positive progress to draft policies and legislation to conserve and protect the environment. However, significant challenges still remain. This is largely due to lack of capacity in enforcing compliance of the policies and legislation in local and provincial spheres of government. For instance, the degradation of ocean and estuaries continues unabated, and the government, particularly your department, Minister, and the Department of Fisheries has all but turned a blind eye to it. Is that because the poor communities that are most dependent on the ocean resource lack power and influence, or that the ocean species that are near extinction do not vote? Honorable Chairperson, let me narrate the story that was told by the community living along the Swartkops River in Port Elizabeth during my oversight visit earlier this year. I learned from the community that the ocean and coast of the city were once a beautiful place for families to visit, swim, and fish. They were an economic powerhouse, contributing millions to the region's gross domestic product and thousands of jobs. But today, these oceans face growing challenges, from pollution to loss of habitat, and sometimes competing industrial uses. This is a result of the Nelson Mandela Bay failure to operate and maintain their infrastructure in a cost-effective and a sustainable manner. With complete disregard, the Nelson Mandela Bay municipality has had millions of liters of sewer spewed into the river, which feeds to the estuary in the past. The failure of the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro Municipality in this regard has led to a rapid deterioration of estuary and ocean environment, followed by a drop of aquatic population in the area. As a result, there has been a decrease in the number of tourists, and the local unemployment, which is currently sits at a 36.6%. This shows how national discourse and strategy becomes entangled with other spheres of government, and there's the implementation on the grassroots level where it matters most. To put it quite simply, this has been a dereliction of duty on the municipality side. There is an urgent need to identify areas that are appropriate for use and those that need protection. This will ensure that estuaries are protected and thereby creating a healthy ocean for generations to come. I would like to quote the former state president, Duterte Nelson Mandela, during the ceremony on the 24th of May, 1994, open quotes. I'm especially pleased that we have a ministry that dedicated to the issue of environment. Its work must impact on many aspects of national activity and address the question of well-being of society as a whole and preservation of a healthy environment future, even for the generation not yet born, close quote. Honorable chairpersons, we must be keepers of this legacy. Guided by these noble principles once more, we can face challenges and triumph by making decisions that put the lives of South African and its environment first. In upholding these noble principles, the DA calls for the Minister Molewa to reverse her decision to grant postponement for the compliance with minimum emission standards in the declared priority areas. Granting this postponement is not just a matter of law, but has a real and adverse effects on the health and well-being of the people in the community surrounding these areas. The Air Quality Act states the postponement may only be granted if there is compliance with current national ambient air quality standards. 23 of the approved applications for postponement that were granted did not comply with the current national ambient air quality standards and were therefore granted unlawfully. This means the Department of Environmental Affairs has knowingly and willfully put the health of many South Africans at risk. The department cannot ignore the human cost in terms of environmental degradation and health inflictions suffered by South Africans as a result of this postponement. Research attributes premature death and the deterioration of climate and ecosystem to air pollution. With South Africa having one of the highest per capita emission rates in the world, and in the light of international emission agreements, would have expected that the air quality provisions would have been stringently adhered to. Each application for postponement should have included a credible health impact assessment and offset plan before it was approved. The DA only requires an offset plan by April 2016, with no indication of how this will be enforced. Mass polluters cannot continue to use our citizens as pollution filter. The department has a constitutional mandate to provide an environment that is not harmful to the people's life, not to make excuses on behalf of the polluters. Minister, you must act without delay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Siyobiza manje umhlonishwa Machobeni.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Debating here on behalf of the EFF, I do so because the member who participated in this committee is no longer the member of parliament. The economic freedom fighters reject the Environmental Affairs 2015 and 2016 budget votes. The constitutional mandate of the Department of Environmental Affairs is to give effect to the right of citizens to an environmental that is not harmful to their health and well-being.
Chair.
And to have
Just a question of clarity.
Hold on, Honorable Member. Honorable Mthembu.
As far as I know, Honorable Member Murapela is a member of the
Honorable
committee, is
what?
a member of parliament. Murapela is a member of parliament and a
Honorable-
member of this committee.
What's your point of order now?
The member has said a member who is misleading us, because Member Murapela is a member of parliament currently and is the member who's attending on behalf of EFF this committee. So we are being misled.
Honorable Member, I can't verify those facts for now, but I will check on them. Continue, honorable member.
Thank you, Chair, for protecting me. The constitutional mandate of the Department of Environmental Affairs is to give effect of the right of citizens to an environment that is not harmful to their health and well-being, and to have the environmental protected for the benefit of present and future generations. But the reality, Minister, is that our groundwater system is polluted because we have mines that operate without water, use licenses without environmental authorization in this country. The reality is that the productive of our agricultural land is to compromise because chemicals and acid used during mining render that land around mines sterile and not suitable for agriculture. The reality is that the ANC government continues to invest on local powered energy generation, which devastated effect for this and future generations. Your government, despite warnings from credible scientific voices, continue with its plan for shale gas fracking in the Karoo. The reality is because of extensive and government-sponsored land and freshwater system degradation, our country's freshwater supply in great danger. Your government's committed to protect fishing monopolies has led to serious overfishing, depleting our marine resources for the benefit of just a few, while the majority of our coastal communities are languishing in poverty. This is the real statement of the environment, proudly brought by the ANC. In 2012, you approved the Integrated Industry Waste Tire Management Plan, whose aim was to support and promote tire recycling, providing the collection
honorable
and
members.
deporting infrastructure required to collect waste tire from across the entire country and deliver them to approved recycling. This could have created millions of jobs. Under this plan, tire producers are charged and waste management fee of R2.30 VAT on every kilogram on new tire rubber produced. Millions of rands have been collected, but nothing tangible has been done on tire recycling. We have not had any report on this, Minister. What has happened to all the money collected from tire manufacturers? In the committee, I said in the committee, not in this.
Order.
We must invest more in wind and solar energy and move away from relying coal energy. It is impossible to have 80% of our
honorable
energy coming
members.
from renewable
Order.
sources of energy in the next 20 years. We must invest more in the rehabilitation and maintenance of our ecological infrastructure. This will create jobs and safeguard our ecosystems. We must expand public transport to lower our carbon footprint. We must encourage the production of organic food from small-scale agroecology. We must ban scale gas cracking. The Karoo is a water-scarce area already. We cannot experiment with dangerous exercise such as fracking. Through practice and policy, we must adopt zero-waste principle as a country. The EFF advocates for a more sustainable future. We are the only political party in this parliament and outside that advocates strongly for green energy sources. We are not fake, we don't play. We want a green economy. We reject this budget. Unless the Department of Environmental Affairs is driven by a vision of attain green economic freedom in our lifetime. Thank you.
Ongelukkig is sy tyd is om. Dankie, agbare lid. Ons gaan nou voor met die debat. Ons nooi agbare Estenhuizen na die podium. Order, honorable members. Agbare lid, gaan aan.
Thank you, Chairperson. The IFP do accept the budget, but we do have some concerns and something close at heart for me. We are losing the war against poaching of our indigenous wildlife. Since 2008, our rhino population has been steadily butchered for those seeking to profit from the illicit sale of rhino horn. Our figures indicate an approximately 1,400% increase in the killing since 2008. No sane person could ever state that we are winning the war against rhino poaching after looking at such statistics. The question is why? Why are with all the resources at this government's disposal, can we no longer protect our wildlife? Why is the ministry not at code red and incensed to the point of mania at a level of poaching that's being allowed to occur within our borders and in many of our national parks? 2014 set a new record in our roundup poaching when the number rose to 1,215 compared to 83 in 2008 and just 6 in 2000. Wildlife in our country are bleeding, whilst the measures employed to prevent same are proving hopelessly inadequate. Our means of combating poaching require an entire rethink and complete government, interdepartmental and international buy-in in order to stop this horror story. Government must be committed to ending this wanton slaughter of our wildlife for nothing but a profiteering of a few selected individuals and international crime syndicates. Honourable Chairperson, another issue close to the heart of the IFP and our leader, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, is the continuing barbaric practice of captive bred tame lion hunting, known as canned lion hunting in South Africa. Unlike poaching, and despite the Honourable Minister's aversions to the contrary, the trade involving captive bred or canned hunting is still legal in this country and is still openly promoted and advertised as a source of revenue. It is largely unmonitored. Departmental officials in the Northwest Province cannot even tell how many permits for hunts have been issued in the province. The ministry also seemed to have been very cozy with the Professional Hunters Association of South Africa, PASA, in continuing to promote such for-profit barbarism that hides under the cloak of sport. In a confined space, what chances do a drugged, captive and tame lion have of escaping from the hunter? We applaud a recent legislation by the Australian government in banning the import of all animal trophies from Africa, as well as the recent moves by South African Airways and Emirates Airlines to embargo the transport of all hunting trophies from South Africa, and call upon all transport carriers, wherever they by sea or land, to follow suit. Minister, we urge you to again to ban captive bred canned lion hunting. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Honorable Esther Hazen. Robitsa belo sebui se se latelang motlhomphegi ke kana.
Ke a leboga mmusa kgotla leswa ke karolo e botlhokwa ya setšhaba sa rona e go leng gantsi e ikgatolosiwang le go sa tsewe ntsi ya ke bontsi ba batho le fa tota e le karolo e botlhokwa ya matshelo a rona a tsatsi le letsatsi. Fa setšhaba sa Aforika Borwa se gola, leswe le lone le tswelela go gola, bogolosegolo fa setšhaba se tswela pele mme go tlhagelela dithekenoloji tse dintšhwa. Re tshwanetse go lebana le kgwetlho eno, go tlhama dikakanyo tse dintšhwa ka ga tsela ya go tlhabolola ditsamaiso tsa rona. Seno ke go ya ka di-policy tsa rona tsa ga jaana e leng Waste Management Strategy le National Waste Law e leng molao wa yona palamenteng eno se a kgonega. Go nna le dithothobolo tsa matlakala go tla thusa setšhaba go dirisa mekgwa ya go tsamaisa leswe, go netefatsa gore re ungwelwa go tswa mo ikonoming ya tsamaiso ya leswe. Ka go dira seno, re tla bo re mekamekane le botlhokatiro le bohuma jaaka go tlhagisitswe ke moporesidente wa rona ka nako ya puo ya gagwe pulong ya palamente ka Tlhakole monongwaga. Ka jalo, go na le tlhokego e botlhokwa go tswa mo mokgweng o re bonang go le go tsamaisa leswe ka yone go ntse go lekana ka setso sa go latlhakaka. Ke ka ntlha ya seno re akgolang tona ya merero ya tikologo mo go tlhomeng komiti pusogare ya botsamaisi jwa leswe ka Mopitlwe monongwaga. MaAforika Borwa go dirisa leswe ka ditsela tse di maleba go mosola thata. Tikologo re motlotlo ka maikano a lefapha le merero ya tikologo e dirileng ditlhabololo e tsweletseng e na le bokao jo bogolo mo mananeong a botsamaisi jwa leswe le dikhemikhale la lefapha. Seno se bonala mo maikaelelong a lefapha go tlhama ditiro di le 576 mo lefapheng la botsamaisi jwa leswe mo ngwageng wa ditšhelete wa 2015 le 16 fela le go di oketsa go nna 10,500 ka ngwaga wa ditšhelete wa 2019 le 20 go ntse go le jalo lefapha le batla go tlhoma dikgwebo tsa botsamaisi jwa leswe di le 20 di SMMEs le di cooperative ka 2015 le 16 le go tlhatlogela go palogotlhe ya 250 ka 2019 le 20 ruri le huma le botlhokatiro ga le a le bona kwa waste economy. Samtrek mabogo dinku a thebana bagaetso re tla bona a zero waste South Africa mo botshelong jwa rona. Puso African National Congress ka lefapha la merero ya tikologo ya re natlafatsa go leba sešwa kamana ya rona re le leswe. Re totlomatsa matsapa a tserweng ke puso ditlhopha tsa selegae le kgwebo puso tswetswe mmogo re le maAforika Borwa let us reuse recycle fa ke gatelela go ya ka tsela ya lefapha le merero ya tikologo e dirang ka yona mo programeng ya chemical waste management lo keleditswe tekanyetso ka bo monongwaga go ya go 72.2 million. Ke se re se itumellang ka sona mo lefapheng leno wa lala wa sala a re tshegetseng le go fitisa
Honorable member.
tekanyetso kabo ya lefapha la merero ya tikologo lengwe la mafapha a itsheng. ANC support this budget. Ke a leboga.
I'm not sure about this interpretation hearing aids in the gallery. Please assist. I think you are maybe struggling, but we have them there. I'm not just sure whether they are working. If there are any officials here, help us and help our guests in the gallery. Thank you very much. We continue and we call upon now the Honorable Shilembe to take the debate forward.
Honorable Chairperson, all honorable members of Parliament, it is seldom that we have an opportunity to express appreciation for a state department which is operating and functioning the way a department should in a developmental state. Today we are presented with such a rare opportunity. The protection of our environment is of utmost importance, not only for us, but also for future generations. The fundamental principle of environmental protection is the sustainable use, enjoyment, and development of a finite resource. We only have one Earth, and if we don't take care of it now, future generations will pay a heavy price. It is within this context of sustainable use that the NFP views the budget presented to us. We note with concern that the fiscus has reduced the allocation for the department, which in our opinion is short-sighted. Protecting and conserving our environment ought to be one of the key priorities of our government, a sound investment for future generations. When looking at the proposed distribution of the money allocated, it is obvious that the department has attempted to prioritize the best of its ability considering the restriction it is facing. That is to be commended. We do, however, note the low allocation for Program 2, particularly if compared with the allocation of administering the department, as provided for in Program 1. Legal compliance is of utmost importance, Chairperson. It is our legislation is to be given effect to. It does not help if we have world-class laws that look good on paper and does not translate to actual enforcement and compliance. We can legislate as much as we want, but implementation ultimately determines whether we achieve our goals or not. Future generations will judge us harshly if we fail now. Similarly, the allocation for Program 4 is, in our opinion, inadequate. Air quality management is not only an issue for future generations to deal with, but also for us, the present generation. The NFP is not in agreement with the recent decision of the department to give some of the worst air polluters in South Africa a 5-year reprieve from compliance with the new minimum emission standard under stricter air quality laws. We believe that the international environment principle of a polluter pays should be applied equally in South Africa, regardless of whether it is a state entity or a private entity responsible for fouling the air that we breathe. The NFP is encouraged by the innovative approach the department is taking to chemical and waste management as provided for in the allocation of a Program 7. We believe that recycling at grassroots level should be promoted with great enthusiasm, and that the economic benefits of it be channeled back to participating communities. Waste management will be seen as a renewable resource, and opportunities which arise from these processes have the potential to make a significant impact on the lives of our people, not only resulting in a clearer environment, but also in the entrepreneurial and job opportunities which could flow from it. Finally, when considering the allocations made for the entities reporting to the department, the NFP once again expresses appreciation for the balanced approach taken by the department. Sustainable environmental conservation and the protection of biodiversity are key areas against which successful environment management can be measured. And we are of the opinion that the money allocated will be put to good use. The NFP wishes to encourage these entities to, where possible, increase their capacity to generate additional revenue, which will assist them to continue
sorry, your time has
executing
expired.
their respective mandate with the same measure of success as they do currently.
Thank you.
Before I sit down,
Thank you. Your time has expired. Your time has expired.
I support the budget.
Thank you very much. I now call upon the Honorable Deputy Minister of Water Affairs and Environmental Affairs.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Our Minister of Environmental Affairs, Umama Edna Molewa, MSs present, Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Ubaba Mthembu, members of the Portfolio Committee, members of Parliament, our chairpersons and chief executives of public entities, our dear officials, the private sector, and our guests. In 19, ngiqalela ukuthi umhlonishwa lo we-EFF lo mnyango esikhuluma ngawo kuwona we-energy akuwona wezamandla ke ungabe ufika la uzokhuluma into engekho uzophupha emini. In 1990, Dr. Albie Sachs, a veteran of the ANC and former Constitutional Court judge, wrote, and I quote, "It is not just playing with metaphors to say that we are fighting to free the land, the sky, the waters, as well as the people. Apartheid not only degrades the inhabitants of our country, it degrades the earth, the air, and the streams. When we say Maibuye Africa, we are not only calling for the return of legal titles, but also for the restoration of the land, the forest, and the atmosphere. The greening of our country is basic to this healing." Ake ngithi kapu ngalo mnotho esithi wildlife economy noma umnotho wasendle. Sizokhumbula ukuthi izwekazi lethu lala eMzansi linone kakhulu ngalokho esikubiza ngebiodiversity. La sisuke sikhuluma ngempilo yezilwane nezihlahla ikakhulukazi lezi zasendle. Lokhu esikubiza ngebiodiversity noma lezilwane nalezi zitshalo zinomnotho ongasukumi phansi. We have more than 10,000 game farms across the country. This wildlife economy is currently valued at 8 billion rand, and most of this economy is currently in the hands of white owners. Our challenge is to take this huge economy and spread its benefits in an equal manner so that all our people stand to benefit as informed by the Freedom Charter's call that the people shall share in the country's wealth. Ake ngithi kancane ngolwebele. Kubalulekile ukuthi sikhumbuzane ukuthi lo mnotho sasingawazi. Sasingasondeli nokusondela kuwona. Ngoba wawuqhoqhobalwe yibo labo uNtaba kayikhonjwa. Bengafuni lutho kusondela ngakubo. Ngamanye amazwi bona babe wogombela kwesabo. Ngisho bona lapha. Lokhu ke kwakuyinto embi kakhulu. Ngoba sikholwa ukuthi leli ifa labo bonke abantu bala eMzansi. Wafika ke uhulumeni kaAfrican National Congress waqala ukuyivula iminyango yalomnotho. We have worked closely with the Department of Rural Development as well as land restitution rather, as well as the private sector towards identification and mobilization of new landowners and emerging wildlife farmers to participate in this lucrative sector. We have received requests from traditional authorities and many farmers across the country to assist with the improvement of their land and establishment of linkages with the private sector. Together with the Chief Lands Claim Commission, we have also agreed to restore and develop a minimum of 18 currently redistributed game farms as unproductive communal land into well-operated commercial game reserves. Leli gatsha ke liholwa umama acting DDG wethu uSkhumza Magcotshwa. Ngiyathanda ukubeka lokho khona nizothi uma ngabe nifuna lezi zinto nazi ukuthi ubani iminyengwane enimthintwana ngale nibamba thina la ngeyidwaba misidlulu. Thina somnyango sithi kubalekile ukuthi siwuphule lo mgogodla walomnotho ukuze abantu abamnyama bahlomule nabo. Siyaqhubha, siyasebenza. Ake ngithinteke kancane kulokho esikubiza ngokuthi waste management. La sikhuluma ngemfucuza yahlobo lonke. Bona ontaba kayikhonjwa lapha. Bakhela abantu izindlu ezakhiwe ngalokho esikubiza ngokuthi asbestos. Basidalela inyakanyaka ongakazi uyibona. Lokhu sikubona kahle eindaweni ezifana neNorthern Cape, KZN naseLimpopo kulezo ifundazwe. Sinohlelo ke siumnyango ukukhuculula lenyakanyaka eyadalwa yilabo ababedla izambane likaPondo. Lolu hlelo lizodla imali enkulu kakhulu. Yingakho kuzofanele ukuthi sihlanganise yonke iminyango ngoba uma sithi lizobhekelelwa umnyango lo wezemvelo uzosilimaza ngasemasentini. Sizokhothama lapha kwilokho esikubiza ngeGreen Fund ukuze sikwazi ukwenza lo msebenzi. Siyazibuza nokho mihla namalanga ukuthi ngabe abantu ikakhulukazi abamnyama babeyogula kuze kube yinini ukuba uhulumeni kaKhongolose akazange ahole. Ingabe kwakuyoshabalala abantu abangakanani. Leli gatsha lona ke liholwa ubaba uDDG wethu uMark Gordon nethimba lakhe. Siyaqhubha siyasebenza sohulumeni kaKhongolose. Extended Public Works Program. Ake ngichaze kanje ngaphambi ukuthi ngiye kuma programs ethu ukuthi ngesikhathi umongameli wezwe uMaphume Phethe ngesikhathi ememezela ukuthi uhulumeni yokwakha amathuba emisebenzi awu6 million. Wayengasho ukuthi uyophume ngena umuzi nomuzi athi nqonqonqo Magumet nqonqonqo Mamthembu. Wayengasho lo. Wayesho ukuthi uhulumeni through imnyango yakhe yona eyokwakha amathuba emsebenzi sonke simnyango bese sonke ke siyanikela kulesa sibalo sakha esishilo ngichaza lokhu ngoba sesizwe la ngesinye isikhathi nje mhlambe ngithi kulesonto edlule ukhona umhlonishwa wemi la ememeze Kolota ethi Mongameli apha amathuba emsebenzi owathi uzowakha akuyena umongameli wayememezela ithini siyakhayo lo msebenzi ngemnyango yethu nazo ezinye izinhlelo zomnyango wethu sinenhlelo working for the coast working on waste working on land working on fire people and parks kids and parks njalo njalo sinolunye uhlelo oluhle kakhulu esilibiza nge-eco program ngiyazi ukuthi ubaba Mthembu bese kushilo lokho kakade ke vele ingoma emnandi yaphindwa ingakho ngizoyiphinda lolu hlelo ke sesakhe amadesk angu 169,000 okwamanje siphikelele ekwakheni angu 200,000 kuwona lo nyaka a further 550,000 are planned for 2015-2016 financial year. Sisebenzisana ke la nomnyango njengoba eshilo ubaba Mthembu we-basic education ngalo luhlelo sizama wona belo amathuba omsebenzi lawo kuthiwa wekho kulolu hlelo sisebenzisa izihlahla lezi esithi ngoma bonabulawo ama-alien trees. This branch is led by our DDG ubaba Dr. Preston and his team siyaqhubeka siyasebenza. In the previous financial year, and in response to the objectives of the NDP and government, through the Extended Public Works Program, our department also created 50,281 work opportunities. 16,878 are full-time equivalent of work opportunities. 50% of these work opportunities were created for women, 66% for youth, and 1.2 for people with disability. And just to add, Chairperson, 2,395 fires were fought by the Working on Fire program during the 2013-2014 financial year, and up to October 2014-2015, a further 2,692 were attended to. Sathula nje sathi ake sibayeke labantu ngoba bathanda ukuba inkinga sizokhumbula ukuthi kube nemlilo emkhulu la eKapa sabona abantu besukuma khona la kuleni beyingoma bethi imisebenzi yayo le kwakungewona umsebenzi wenu umsebenzi owenziwa through this Working on Fire program. Lokhu ngikubiza ngononina ngoba bese ngikushilo lokho okubizwa umama lo ebelesela la acisha wazwaphuka intamo impela ebuza umongameli ukuthi iphi imisebenzi olunye uhlelo lwethu i-People and Parks program kanye ne-Kids and Parks program nala futhi sizokhumbula ukuthi amapaki lawa sasiwabukela kude siconsa amathe simlapha emasangweni sibukela bona labo ntaba kayikhonjwa bengcebeleka bodwa nabathandwa bawo kulamapaki babaze babhale imbhalo ethi abamhlophe bodwa besibukela kude sakuthi sasingebona abantu abafana nabo namhlanje ngoba befuna abakufunayo sebethi nabo bamela abantu abamnyama phinde siyaphika uhulumeni kaKhongolose sithi lokho ukuthi bamela abantu abamnyama bokuxoxela amagwabalo echobana wafika ke uhulumeni kaNC wathi phinde lamapaki ayovulelwa bonke abantu black and white singcebeleka nabo namhlanje. On the Kids and Parks program, last year, this program was successfully implemented, affording 4,873 learners and 189
Can you round up
educate.
in 30 seconds?
Oh,
Your time actually has expired. Let's round up.
oh, ake ngithi sengizoyiphetha imbenge. Olunye lophiko lwethu i-South African Weather Services ukuchazele ubaba uMthembu sizonikhumbuza kule ndlu ukuthi funa nikhumbule ukuthi lolu phiko lethu uphiko libaluleke kakhulu ngoba iningi lenu njengoba nila nize ngezindiza beningeke ke nifike la kube lolu phiko alukho.
Thank you. Thank you very much. On that
Ngiyabonga
note.
kakhulu.
Can I address you on a point of order?
Honorable Waters,
Chairperson, I hope you're going to
Yes.
show the same leniency to the opposition MPs when they speak and give them an extra minute.
well,
Thank you.
well,
Either we stick to the time or you be lenient to everybody.
I am
Please,
strict
Chair.
on
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you very much. We now call upon Agbare Leader Steenkamp.
Thank you, Chairperson. Just in short, I altered my speech a little bit after watching a movie with my 3-year-old niece yesterday, so I think it's very appropriate. Let me start off by quoting Elsa from the Disney movie Frozen. She says, let it go, can't hold it back anymore. Let it go, turn away and slam the door. Minister, it is time that we let go of and rethink South Africa's horrific approach to waste disposal. Our landfill sites are truly in a state, and they are overflowing and not regulated properly, if at all. Let it go, Minister. It is time that we adopt and nourish a pro-recycling mindset within our society and starve our bloated landfills. A great start would be to use as an example a wonderful little town right here in the Western Cape called Greyton. Last year, Greyton phased out single-use plastic shopping bags almost completely. Due to their ability to become airborne, plastic bags have led to a multitude of problems throughout the country, including littering our streets, being ingested by livestock, and leaking toxins into the environment. They are also a significant threat to our marine life and have wreaked havoc on our coastline's ecosystem. Every year, it's estimated that millions of marine creatures suffer from plastic ingestion or entrapment. Minister, there is also a need to educate our citizens and to incentivize recycling in South Africa, yes, but that is not enough. We can't hold it back anymore, Minister. Let us make waste valuable, give it a value, and put a price on waste. The government needs to set an example by pursuing and implementing innovative recycling practices and sustainable energy-related policies and programs. We need to change mindsets and educate people to think twice and show them why they should rethink, reuse, reduce, and recycle before just throwing something away. For instance, one of our international trade partners, Sweden, they have a waste-to-energy program, and it generates 20% of the nation's district heating, and it generates electricity for 250,000 houses. Sweden has also actually run out of waste. They don't have a landfill site. They have gone into a trash for cash initiative and partnership with all their neighboring countries. They are buying waste from other countries. That's what I mean. Right, so considering our electricity crisis and overflowing landfill sites, this could be the perfect solution to help both problems currently plaguing South Africa. I will repeat this. Let it go, let it go. Turn away and slam the door on the current horrific approach to waste disposal. I'm glad you know the song. I implore you, Minister, your department, and your colleagues in the energy portfolio to heed my words and consider this proposal. If not for your sake, then for our nation's future. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I now call upon Honorable Mabilo.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Ministers and Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members, distinguished guests. The People's Movement, the African National Congress, has declared 2015 as the year of the Freedom Charter and unity in action to advance economic freedom. Honorable Chairperson, the ANC government has the responsibility to ensure that the right of its citizens to an environment that is not harmful to their health, well-being, and to the environment protected for the benefit of present and future generation is guaranteed. The purpose of the Oceans and Coast Program is to promote, manage, and provide strategic leadership on oceans and coastal conservation in our country. South Africa has oceans and coast which are priceless assets. Indispensable to life itself, they also contribute significantly to our prosperity and overall quality of life. The National Coastal Access Strategy was developed to assist coastal provinces and municipalities in prioritizing some of their coastal access initiatives that needs to be included in municipalities in terms of the IDP and the SDF. The strategy seeks to address the following key coastal issues. 1, improve pedestrian access above the high water mark. 2, improve infrastructure access. 3, prevent exclusive use. 4, address conflicting rights between public interests, private property owners, and communal and traditional users. The National Coastal Management Program, therefore, represents the commitment of the ANC government towards realistic and tangible goals that will benefit the coastal environment and ensure its sustainability. The Freedom Charter says, the national wealth of our country, the heritage of South Africans, shall be restored to the people. Our oceans are amongst our most precious resources, providing us with nutritious food, recycling of oxygen, and helping to keep our climate system in balance. They also offer significant economic opportunities, not just in well-established industries such as fisheries, transport, but also in newer sectors like offshore exploration, wind, and wave energy generation, where innovation can help us meet new demands and sustainably develop available resources. The National Development Plan identified ocean economy as one of the key drivers to eliminate poverty and reduce inequality by the year 2030. Our President, His Excellency Jacob Zuma, in his 2015 February State of the Nation address, said the following, I quote, "Our economy needs a major push forward. We would like to share with you our 9-point plan to ignite growth and create jobs," close quote. Operation Pakisa, aimed at growing the ocean economy and other sectors, will take center stage in our developmental and growth agenda as the African National Congress. As the ANC, we are certainly delighted and very optimistic about the government's Operation Pakisha initiative, which promotes economic growth and job creation in line with goals outlined in the NDP. Honorable Chair, Operation Pakisa was officially launched by President Jacob Zuma in October 2014, following a 6-week-long intensive and thorough investigation to unlock the potential of South Africa's oceans and their contributions to the country's economy. The new growth path targets 5 million jobs from 2010 to 2020. This target will require vigorous action to reduce concentration and diversify the economy, while ensuring adequate infrastructure, skills, and appropriate regulatory framework. It also requires that the state promotes and supports new innovative activities that can add value and generate employment on a large scale. We need to ensure growth in the core productive sectors of new areas of economic growth, such as the oceans economy, the green economy, and shale gas. The investigation found, among others, that South Africa's ocean economy has the potential to contribute to more than 20 billion to the GDP by 2019, and at least create more than 1 million jobs. The following opportunities are outlined in the ocean economy. First is shipping and port facilities. 2, fisheries. 3, aquaculture. 4, energy. 5, tourism. 6, biotechnology. Submarine mining, that's the last. Honorable Chair, the Department of Environment Affairs has a key role to play with other relevant government departments and state entities to work towards the successful implementation of this initiative. Our role in this regard is particularly focused on marine protection services and ocean governance, which entail the protection of ocean environment from all illegal activities and promotion of its multiple socio-economic benefits. It is therefore pleasing to learn that the Department of Environment Affairs will table an ocean bill during the 2015-2016 financial year, which certainly will pave the way for the promulgation of the necessary legislation that will propel successful implementation of Operation Pakisa. The legislation, once enacted, will provide a clear foundation for marine spatial planning. Honorable Chairperson, we welcome the announcement by the Minister around the massive millions that are invested for governance around Pakisa. With regard to the continent called Antarctica, which is not any native inhabitant before, there are interesting developments that our country should take into consideration, because South Africa is one of the first signatories to the Antarctica Treaty. We cannot ignore that. Major powers have voiced their interest in the continent's resource potential, that is the Antarctica, strongly suggesting the current prohibition of resource exploitation will be revised after 2014. These developments pose a potential threat to the longevity of the Atlantic Treaty System. Our country must reposition itself to play a strategic role in the Antarctica space by virtue of its proximity to Antarctica continent.
Thank you. On that note.
Honorable Chair, in conclusion, as the ANC, we support the budget vote. Thank you.
We now call upon Honorable Carter.
Thank you, Chairperson. At the outset, Madam Minister, I trust that you and your department are painfully aware of a recent approval by the Department of Mineral Resources of an application to explore for phosphate by the drilling of prospecting holes across the West Coast most sensitive marine habitat and its richest fishing grounds off Langebaan. Minister, you will recall that this follows recent amendments to our mining legislation, which now disempowers your department and empowers the Department of Mineral Resources with authority to regulate, consider and approve environmental assessments relating to mining activities. Minister, I would appreciate it if you would respond to and comment on this when you reply to this debate. In retrospect, are the amendments in the best interest of our environment and sustainable development, or are we sniffing a mining gate? Madam Minister, I'm seeking your views and comment, given that the Department of Mineral Resources will also shortly publish regulations governing the exploration process for shale gas in the environmentally sensitive Karoo. Minister, the mandate of the department is onerous and multifaceted. At the outset, Minister, COPE would like to commend the department's work on working on fire program, but our sterling work throughout our country. It truly represents a public program that meaningfully adds value whilst affording citizens employment and skills development. COPE wishes to once again convey its condolences to those pilots and firefighters who perished, saving our property, environmental and farmlands and lives. Madam Minister, I'd like to agree, and I'd like to say I wish we could say this, not on our watch. But the reality is, the number of rhinos butchered by poachers has increased this year despite all initiatives to date. We are currently in May, but more worrying, of the 393 rhinos that's been butchered this year, 290 of them were lost in the Kruger National Park. It is not just the rhinos that are threatened, it's also our elephants. We are losing the war, and the buck stops with you. Have you considered the Vicuna parallel, which would empower communities, save our rhinos and also our elephants? We can learn from a Sheldrick Foundation as well as the Kenya government. According to the Institute for Security Studies, current water demand in the country exceeds supply, and the gap is expected to grow over the next 20 years. But Minister, this is a grave situation that does not require political obfuscation. On ENCA last night, your counterpart, the Minister of Water and Sanitation, I almost used another word there, downplayed the situation, claiming that the demand for water only amounted to some 75% of supply. This is not true. So, Minister, can you tell us what is the real situation? I am receiving reports of continued sewage spillage into tributaries feeding into the Midmar Dam, the primary source of water for Pietermaritzburg and Ngongondlovo. This is not a new issue. It has been festering for years. I cannot help but think that your department is toothless and that the system of cooperative governance between environmental affairs, water and sanitation, and the local and district municipalities is failing. Minister, I see that I'm running out of time. You can't let it go. Minister, you are on this boat. Your family is on this boat. My family is on this boat. And so is the students from Settlers High School, Adler and Claire, on this boat. I'm asking of you, please keep it afloat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now call upon Honorable Maluleka.
Mutshami wa xitulu, holobye na xiandla xa holobye wa ndzawulo ya mbangu, tiholobye ni swandla swa tiholobye, swirho swa palamende, vatirhela mfumo, bavhaki va hina, ndza mi losa. Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, I join the earlier voices in expressing our deepest shock at the loss of a life well lived, the life of our stalwarts both in the ANC and the struggle for liberation, our own Mayor Ruthe Singhumutse Mumpati. We will continue to shield the massive political footprints that you left. It will never fade away, not in our lifetime. May your soul rest in peace, Mama Ruthe. Minister, nka direla mokgatlo wa African National Congress phoso e kgolo hanga se bolelle setšhaba se boitlotlomatso bo re bo kry-ang ha re tswile ko mafatsheng a ko ntle maitlotlomatso a re a kry-ileng ko Peru ke nagana gore honorable Hadebe le honorable Shilembe ke dipaki mo re boleletsweng ke ministera wa environment wa Namibia ka mokgwa o le leng botlhokwa ka teng ma South Africans le ba thusang o ile a re bolelela gore minister ikile ba be ba founela le president ba kopa gore o okeletso matsatsi gobane ba bona gore the Africans ba tlo loser point mo ne tshwantse ba be mo teng mo di negotiations tsa lona tsa COP17 ra itumela mme. I am privileged to take part in this critical budget debate, which is in a way intend to preserve the resource that we have in order to reduce the threat of natural disaster that have taken the entire globe by surprise. My focus will be on biodiversity. This interaction, which also include human beings, provide us with a number of essential natural services that we call ecosystem services. These services include food production, material for shelter, clean air and water, medicine, as well as places for healing and enjoyment. Moreover, the ecosystem services that are derived from biodiversity are considered alongside its potential to yield economic benefits, contributing towards improving livelihoods and create employment. These are the foundation of human well-being and a vital source of many of our life. Biodiversity is an important aspect of environment, and it is in the context that the Constitution protects the environment not only for the present generation, but for the future generation too. through measure that promotes conservation and secure ecologically sustainable development and use of natural resources while promoting justifiable economic and social development. It is in this respect that one of the key mandates of the Department of Environmental Affairs is to protect and enhance environmental assets and natural resources through sustainable utilizations. This can be promoted and developed through the sustainable utilization of biological resources such as hunting, game farming, game breeding, as well as bioprospecting, biotrade, and the natural product market, which significantly contribute to economic development, hence to our country's GDP. Tse ding tse ke a di tshelang, ke utlwile, Deputy Minister Ngome Mnandi a phindwa mara ke tla save-a nako. Chairperson, I'm proudly informing Honorable Carter, the ANC noted in its 53rd conference the upsurge in rhino poaching and the detrimental effects thereof to the country's national heritage, ecology, environment, and tourism. It is therefore resolved that harshest sentence be handed down on those convicted of this crime. There has been an alarming increase in the rhino poaching countrywide. However, a memorandum of understanding on biodiversity conservation and management was signed with the Minister of Tourism of Mozambique so as to strengthen anti-poaching effects in the Kruger National Park and the Great Limpopo Transfrontier Park through joint cooperation with South Africa counterparts in Mozambique. In the decrease, the demand of the rhino horn in the international community, the committee appreciates the steps taken by the government of Mozambique in establishing an environmental police unit that will secure the margin of Transfrontier Park on site of Mozambique, which Kruger National Park is part of. The committee equally welcomes the commitment by the Mozambican government to remove the human settlement within the Transfrontier Park on site. They will go a long way in the fight against poaching and killing of our rhino species. The committee welcomes the wildlife crime initiative undertaken by the department and relevant security agencies such as SAPS, Defense, Intelligence, and Hawks to stop local international syndicates from poaching and killing our wild, particularly rhinos. As a country, the third most biodiverse in the world, we owe it to future generations to protect and preserve our heritage. It is noteworthy that the significance of biodiversity
Thank
economy led.
Your time has expired.
Thank you, Chair. The ANC support the budget.
Can we now call Honorable Stanner?
Molweni sihlalo, maneni nani maneni kazi, siyabulisa. After 21 years, our democracy is led by a broken man and crippled by a perpetual system of insiders and outsiders. The western border along the Kruger National Park is a perfect depiction of this inequality. These poor communities are suppressed by poor service delivery, stifled by the lack of quality education or meaningful employment, and subjected to crime, or turned to crimes like poaching because they haven't had the freedom, fairness, or opportunity to better their lives. The Minister of Home Affairs has failed to implement immigration controls that prevent the influx of undocumented foreign nationals along the southwestern border of the Kruger National Park, where the majority of poaching incidents now originate. The Ministry of Defense has failed, along with the police, to secure South Africa's borders, or so much as a cross-border hot pursuit agreement, to foil the daily armed insurgencies on the sovereignty of our states and butchering our natural heritage. The South African Revenue Service has failed to adequately implement customs controls at points of entry permitting the free trafficking of illegal wildlife and plant specimens abroad. The State Security Agency has failed to adequately to gather and coordinate actionable intelligence to disrupt organized crime syndicates that manipulate the supply and demand of illegal flora and fauna. The Ministry of Justice has failed to legislate strict penalties or capacitate their courts with sufficient skilled magistrates to deter environmental crime. The Minister of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries has failed, and I'm so glad you agree, to develop norms and standards for threatened and protected species while they play ping pong with the Department of Environmental Affairs, deflecting their responsibility. The Ministry of Economic Development, yes, has failed to initiate economic opportunities in poor communities that would provide an
Order.
alternative to poaching activities.
Order.
The Ministry
Allow
of
the member to
Environmental
continue.
The Ministry of Environmental Affairs has failed to adequately include adjacent communities in conservation through beneficiation schemes and increased access to the very parks to which they belong. Further, it has failed to focus on essential international demand reduction campaigns, the ultimate solution to the poaching crisis. Rhino are not more important than people, nor is rhino poaching more important than critical issues such as poor service delivery, poor education, unemployment, corruption and crime. But it is the failure of this ANC government to uphold the rule of law and ensure good governance, resulting in our people risking their lives on a daily basis, either to protect our natural heritage or to pilfer it from the rest of us. Minister Molewa, through you, Chair, the Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species will not lift the ban on trade in rhino horn next year in March. Your Rhino Trade Committee is perpetuating debate that is polarizing our country, dividing our efforts and wasting crucial time to save an iconic species. It is shameful that the ANC is endorsing an illegal activity as a quick win for its own government failures. We need to stop feeding off ANC lip service and window dressing. Botswana, Swaziland and other countries all successfully protect their rhino because they have political will. Abo kuko njongo, kuko indlela. Find the will and South Africans will find the way. Enkosi.
Thank you very much. I now call upon Honorable Makubele.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. To the Honorable Minister and other ministers who may be here, to the Honorable Deputy Ministers, Honorable Members, distinguished guests, fellow South Africans, a very good evening to you all. Let me first and foremost just attend to a few parties because others may not be worth even responding to. They might have said, I won't say they said nonsense here, but in what they were saying, there was no sense at all. So we need not respond to them. But those parties that happened to attempt to do some politicking here, perhaps we should respond to them. There is an argument that government has failed, referring to all relevant ministers and so on. Where we're sitting, we know that we have not engaged many of those other portfolio committees to deal with them and agree with them as to exactly what needs to be done. We are still going to be doing that, and it is known within the portfolio committee. That is our program. Let me then paint a context and where we are and the future we're going so that I respond to some of you as you are asking this. I take this opportunity to participate in this budget debate with pride and confidence on behalf of the African National Congress, for I know the ANC government has done a lot in bringing about the change for the better in this area of environment, climate change and air quality management. The people of South Africa have the right to an environment that is not harmful to their health or well-being, and to have their environment protected for the benefit of present and future generations, as it is enshrined in the Constitution. Where do we come from? Poor air quality remains one of our most challenging environmental legacy issues from our apartheid past, where environmental regulation, policies, and services were formulated within a framework that perpetuated social inequality benefiting only the narrow interest of a minority. It generally disregarded the impact of poor environmental quality on black communities. In the past, black settlements were often located near industrial areas that exposed black people to heavy incidents of pollution that promoted environmental racism. This situation was aggravated by the fact that certain polluting industries, notably the mining industry, was largely shielded from environmental regulation and was not required to rehabilitate land after closure prior to 1994. Consequently, dust blowing from mine dumps and the toxic residue of open mine stockpiles continues to affect the health of our people in nearby settlements that surround these open mine stockpiles. Kosovo and Barcelona, here in Philippi and Kaelicha in the Western Cape, are the examples of some of what I'm talking about. Vulnerability to climate change is dictated by both individual and social factors. The livelihood context, gender, age, and social class, level of income, education, and asset holdings all combine to determine the vulnerability and coping abilities of individuals and communities in our country. The past 20 years have realized a sustained effort by our government to mitigate the consequences of apartheid's poor environmental planning on historically marginalized communities. Our government has made significant progress in transforming a largely fragmented environmental governance framework to address the historical legacy of inequality and strategically placing our country on the path to sustainable development that benefits all South Africans and those who live in the Republic. It is important to mention that national averages of the state of air as measured by the government-owned monitoring stations indicate compliance with the ambient air quality standards. We are, however, mindful of the fact that there are significant non-compliances in the priority areas, which are the Vaal Triangle and Highveld areas. In this regard, the areas of non-compliance have been declared priority areas, and the ANC government has focused attention and resources to resolving these problems. The industries that are located in these areas often refuse to take responsibility and blame the pollution on domestic burning of coal. We want to state that the burning of coal in people's homes is a problem which we are addressing, but industries too should invest and reduce their emissions because they are significant continuous sources of air pollution. The department's strategic objectives for air quality management is consistent with Vision 2030 of the National Development Plan that seeks to achieve an environmentally sustainable society, expanded low carbon economy, and reducing emissions by 2030. The environmental affairs is reflective. The budget, 2015-16 budget allocation of the Department of Environmental Affairs is reflective of this reality and also of the ongoing urgency needed in achieving reduced greenhouse gas emissions, climate change impacts, and improved air quality. Mutshami wa xitulu, ndzi rhandza ku tivisa tiko hinkwaro leswaku mfumo wa ANC wu endlile swo tala ku antswisa xiyimo xa rihanyu eka moya lowu hi wu hefemulaku ngopfungopfu eka tindhawu leti nga na tifeme letikulu leti thyakisaka mbango. ANC yi seketela mintirho ya ndzawulo na mpimanyeto wa mali leyi va nyikiweke. Vanhu va fanele ku hefemula moya lowu tengeke. ANC supports this budget vote 27. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we now call upon the Minister of Environmental Affairs to come and close the debate?
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Let me first of all express our appreciation for the debates and Chairperson, and thank you very much for very much elaborating on all our programs as well as the Chief Whip. I think it's very clear that you have been reading our policies, that which you have actually formulated. You're able to speak to those policies and follow what is happening in South Africa. And I'm saying so because it is indeed necessary that as we give praises to you, we also comment on some of the issues mentioned by other honorable members. It is clear, honorable member from EFF, that it is necessary that we go and read, starting from very, very simple policies, green economy strategy, oceans economy, but also just to be aware that this is not a water affairs debate. So I actually don't know what to say when I respond to this discussion. Honorable Member Khadebe, regarding the estuarine, management of estuarines, it is important also just to say to you that the reason why we have had a relook at the coastal management policy in its entirety was exactly to begin to deal with those issues and also support our municipalities. Again, we have to engage on these matters in the committee so that we can be fair with the situation and also just not blame municipalities where actually there are issues related to coastal management. Minister Tourism was here. Perhaps we should say that there was a loss of blue flag status along the lines of our coast, but they've since been returned. So the situation is not as bad as is being projected in this August House. The blue flag status have been returned in all areas in our. I think it is important that before I go too far with other very intensive issues, Qatar and they were raised by Qatar and IFP regarding the rhino as well as the issues about so-called canned lion hunting. I say to Honorable Stander, we were not in a debate of contest, on a contest of who has failed today. We are debating policies of this environment, not about police, not about whatever. We have said it to you time and again that please ask your honorable members who are serving in other committees to actually go and engage in those other portfolio committees or your study groups members in those other areas. Here, what you are doing, I don't know what you're saying. Can you just keep quiet and learn, and so that you become a little bit cleverer? The issue here is really about, she's making noise, and I want, she's failed. The issue here is to understand that we have actually put in place an integrated approach of fighting rhino. We have told you time and again how we are working with Mozambique. You have actually heard what the defense is doing, what police are doing, what the Mozambicans are doing. And it's important just to listen and stop serving the NGO movement, because that's exactly what you are serving. You are serving not the DA. Perhaps the sooner they realize that, the better for them as well.
Point of order, Chair.
Canned lion hunting.
Point of order, Chairperson.
Canned lion hunting.
Point of
Madam,
order.
canned lion hunting.
Point of order.
Just hold on a second. What's the point of order?
I would ask you to ask the Minister to withdraw her imputation that this is not a Democratic Alliance member and that she works for someone else. As she well knows, that's against the ethics and the ethical behavior of a member of Parliament. She has cast the worst aspersion upon our member. Withdraw, please.
I really did not hear what was said. Honorable.
I would ask then that the member's speech is reviewed by your good self, sir.
Chairperson.
Honorable member, maybe we'll need to really check Hansard and verify what has been said and come back on that. Can we do it that way?
Sir, it is your job to check the Hansard and come back to us with a ruling.
That's correct, yes. Thank you very much, Honorable Member.
Chairperson?
Honorable Carter. Are you
Listen,
on
I
a
would,
point of
I
order?
would just like on a point of clarity, and maybe on a point of privilege. Is the Honourable Minister saying that I, Deirdre Carter, is serving an NGO here? Was that what she was saying? Or is she maybe benefiting from the sale and the slaughtering of a rhino horn in this country? Because it's all it can be.
I thought that is what we said we are going to verify. Order. Thank you very much.
I'm coming for you, Carter. Wait. I'm coming. I'm coming for you.
With pleasure.
Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. I need to really know what is there that I'm going to verify. Honorable Minister, can I check with you whether you're saying that the honorable member is working for an NGO or is serving the interest of the NGOs? What have you actually said? Now, can you allow the honorable minister to respond?
The honorable member is working for Parliament of South Africa. She is serving the interest of an NGO. That's what I'm
Okay.
saying.
Okay.
I will once again, Chair, ask that you check the Hansard for our benefit.
That's precisely what I'm saying. Can
Thank
I
you very
continue?
much. Can the honorable minister continue and finish up?
On a point of order, Chair.
You see, thank you
Order.
very much, Honorable Carter.
Order, honorable members. Honorable Van Rooyen.
Member keeps on referring to the minister as benefiting from rhino poaching. I think he's casting aspersion. That's a very serious allegation. Could you please rule on that matter?
Okay, Honorable Carter.
Honourable
That-
Chairperson, I am not prepared to withdraw that. The Minister is forever coming
Honourable-
and I'm not prepared to withdraw that. Go back to Hansard and check it.
Honorable Carter. Honorable Carter. All what I'm saying from this side is that a point of order has been raised, that you have said that she's benefiting from. Now, the question is that what you have said?
Honourable Chairperson, you can check the Hansard. I did ask. Is she benefiting? I'm asking the question, is she benefiting? Why is she forever running away from the issue? Why is she running away? I'm asking the question and I'll say it again. Are you benefiting from the slaughtering of our rhinos in this country?
Yes, Honorable Carter. Whether you have put it in the form of a question or a direct statement to her, you are actually casting aspersion on her and being a member of the House. Can I request you just simply to withdraw that?
Honourable Chairperson, I will withdraw if the Minister withdraws that I am here deployed as from an NGO. Then I will withdraw if she withdraws.
Honorable
Otherwise,
Carter,
we'll have to go to the Hansard.
Honorable Carter, you have confirmed and then thank you for withdrawing it.
Chairperson, I'm not prepared to withdraw it. I have said that I will not withdraw. You can go to the Hansard, number one. Number two, the Minister is also aspersions on me. So therefore, that's...
Honorable Carter, I will go to the Hansard when there is no ruling. But when there is a ruling, then there is no need to go to the Hansard. And now you are requested to withdraw that statement that you have made. that she's benefiting from the rhino horns.
Chair, I asked the question whether she is benefiting, because the way she behaves, it does look like it, and I've got to ask the question.
Honorable
In this house, we are
order.
protected to ask questions.
Honorable Carter, we have always enjoyed your support. And now we are indicating that whether you are putting it in the form of a question or as a direct statement, you are casting aspersions on her. The public out there, they are taking it as such. Therefore, I'm requesting you to withdraw it. I'm requesting you to withdraw that statement. Whether it is in the form of a question, just if you could just withdraw that.
Chairperson, in terms of which rule do I have to withdraw a question?
Honorable Carter, you really know that when you have to do what you have said to the Honorable Minister, you have to do it with a substantive motion. You clearly know that one. And therefore, I'm not sure when you ask the rule, what is your intent, because you have cast aspersion on the minister, and that's what we are requesting you to withdraw. I'm awaiting your response.
Chairperson, I have said it once, I'm saying it again. I'm not prepared to withdraw. You can ask me to leave a house, but I'm not prepared to withdraw it.
Can you then do so?
What do you want me to do, Chairperson?
Can you then leave the house, as you have indicated?
I will then with pleasure, but I'm not prepared to
Thank you.
withdraw. My
Thank you very
question
much.
stands.
Thank you very much. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Can you allow her to leave the house? Honorable Minister, complete the debate.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. House Chair, thank you very much. Honorable Shalembe, we will, the question you raised about the shortfall and on some of the projects, the parastatals, and the fact that they need to raise revenue. We have listened to that. It's only because of the fact that indeed, as we allocate funds sometimes during years of this nature, and last year there was shortfall indeed, you know the economic situation of the world. So we do encourage our parastatals to raise funds. Thank you very much, Honorable Steenkamp, for reminding us and telling the nation about what the ANC is doing. Waste management program, what you have been spelling out now here of waste management program and so on are actually things that we are doing. We are doing them in terms of the regulations, in terms of the policies of the African National Congress. So it is good that you are understanding them and raising them as we always do and as we implement them. I will not even attempt to speak to the issues of COPE anymore, but just to also come back to the issues raised by Honorable Khadebe. We
Try
did.
to round up in a minute, Minister.
Excuse me?
Round up within a minute.
Okay, the issues about rhino poaching, I've said again and again to honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, through you, Chair, you recall, that we'll have to be exposed to the measures that government is implementing, just so that we are at the same level of understanding, but also assisting in this big fight that we are faced up with. It is important to do so and not come and pay lip service here to this issue. Talk about those who may have failed, when you actually can't even lift a finger. Never heard of any intelligent argument that comes on a contribution from some of the honorable members in this House, and particularly other parties. Let's work on this issue of the rhino poaching. It is a very big issue, very complex, and we are continuing to fight. We will never, ever stop fighting. But we will not listen to those who are just shouting. I did say that my skin get thicker and thicker, especially when I listen to some of the people just reiterating what NGOs are saying. I thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Thank you.
That concludes the debate and the business of this extended public committee. This committee will now rise. Thank you very much.